Hey, this is Gretchen Menn, the guitar player for Zepparella. Welcome to the Zepparella Learning Channel. In this video, I'll be showing you how I play the guitar riffs for the Led Zeppelin song, Immigrant Song. This is the first video of what will be a three-part series, and this video is going to focus on playing the riffs of the recorded version of Led Zeppelin's song. In Zepparella, we actually do some things that Led Zeppelin did live, incorporating elements of improvisation, and I'll cover that in subsequent videos. This one's just to get the riffs down, and I'll show you the often misplayed and misunderstood mystery chord that happens towards the end. This video is divided up into 4 different sections, and since Led Zeppelin songs don't always fall into the neat, easily defined verse, chorus, bridge, I'm giving terminology that makes sense to me, but it's not authoritative. It might not be what other people or what you would call them, but for the purposes of this video, we have 1, the F-sharp riff. That's the main riff you hear, and when you think of the song, that's what you're probably going to think of. 2, we have these chords that divide the riffs. 3, we have what I'm calling a bridge. Some people might call it a chorus, but it happens so quickly that to me it serves more of a bridge or joining purpose. And 4, we have the mystery chord that happens within the riff towards the end of the song. Here's how the riff goes. Very slowly. What you're doing there is you're going to be in the second position with your first finger on the F sharp of the E string. So that's the second fret. And you're going to be going between that note and then you hit the F sharp an octave above, so that's on the 4th fret of the D string. I use my pinky. You could use your your third finger, but I just find it more comfortable this way. The pattern is... So what that is, it's an 8th note, 2 16th notes, and then a 16th note on that high F sharp, an 8th note, and another 16th note. If that doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry about it. Here's how it sounds again, very slowly. And if you were going to count it within a measure, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The picking pattern that I use, there are a couple of different ones that to me make sense. You can use whatever works for you, but the one I'm using is just alternating up and down stroke. So that's down, up, 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 down. That is just what makes sense to me. A lot of people might opt to keep their right hand going in the 16th note pattern, and that gives you down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, and so forth. But practice and see what makes most sense for you. I like hitting that high F sharp with an upstroke. I feel like it just helps me really bring it out a little bit more. A couple of pointers in playing this riff is you want to really make sure that the notes that you're not playing are muted. And it's because this is at a high enough volume and high enough gain that you're going to get a lot of sympathetic ringing out if you're not very diligent about muting. So what I do is just make sure that your first finger, as it plays the F sharp, is also really good about muting these other notes. So you can actually play through your strings and check and make sure that those notes are muted. The other thing is make sure that that high F sharp really rings out, and so I hit it a little extra hard. Practice exaggerating it, and then you'll get it to the point where it really cuts through the mix. Part 2, chords within the riff. You have this F sharp riff down. Now you need to figure out these chords that happen within them. It's right before the vocal starts. The chords you're going to be using are A moving to E. And the voicing is open A string, first finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, which is an E, second finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, which is an A, and then your open B and your open E. So that's an A with the second in it, the B. And then for the E voicing, you're going to do a partial bar just of the A and the D string. So you have E, and then you have your B on the A string at the 2nd fret, your E on the D string of the 2nd fret, your pinky, or 3rd finger if you prefer, on the B of the G string, which is the 4th fret, and then the open B, and then open B and E. So that's for A and then E, with the low note in there. Now the count of this is that the first A comes in on the 4th beat of the measure as you've been playing the F sharp riff, goes to the E, which holds for 1 full measure, 4 counts, plus another 2 counts, and then on the 3rd beat, E, A, on the 4th beat, and then back to the riff. So I'll see if I can play it and count it at the same time. So here's your F sharp riff. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and so forth. Part 3 is what I'm calling the bridge. And the chords now are just your kind of more power chords. You've got A, B, C, 1 full measure on A, 1 full measure on B, 1 full measure on C, and then continuing partly through another measure, stopping after the first 16th note of the 3rd beat, resting for that 4th beat, and then going back into that F sharp riff with the pickup note. So that's actually on the last 16th note of beat 4. So the way that sounds if you're counting it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's where a little thing happens where the pickup note, going back into the riff, you go G, F sharp. Part 4, the mystery chord, and this was the most fun part for me to at least do a little bit more research into. I had done this previously, but I always double check my most current information before I do these videos. So this mystery chord is a chord that has been so misunderstood, misplayed for so many years, and apparently Jimmy Page got a real kick out of it. He said it was a standard block chord that nobody could ever get right. Jesse Gress, a legendary transcriber, actually wrote a whole article for Guitar Player magazine specifically about this, and I will link to it below. Fortunately for us, Alfred Music worked with direct supervision from Jimmy Page on these authoritative transcriptions of some Led Zeppelin songs. And according to Aaron Stang of Alfred Music, he actually was able to find documentation that Jimmy Page signed off on the chord voicing of this mystery chord. So here it is in all its glory. It's a G on the 3rd fret of the E string, a B flat on the 1st fret of the A string. You're going to mute the D string, and then you're going to have a B flat again with your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the G string, and a D with your 4th finger on the 3rd fret of the B string. So that is, it's just a G minor chord, but in a voicing that maybe isn't your typical go-to G minor voicing. So the way it sounds within the riff, the first time you hear it is about 152 into the song, and it happens on the 4th beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. For those of you with really good ears, you might experience what a lot of people have experienced, which is saying, but what about the C? Don't we hear a C within that chord? And we do hear a C, but that C is being played by the bass. And normally you wouldn't think it would be that difficult to differentiate between what note a bass is playing, what note a guitar is playing. And I was trying to think about why has this baffled so many people for so many years, and here's the best I can come up with. The C on the bass is a particularly resonant note. The longer the strings, the more resonant the notes are going to be, and the more sympathetic vibrations you're going to get with other strings with certain notes. Rather than go into a whole explanation of the overtone series, I'm going to link to an article about it, but suffice it to say, anytime you hear a note on a stringed instrument, you're not just hearing the note itself, but you're also hearing a series of other higher notes and that's called the overtone series. And the most prominent of those notes are the notes an octave above. So what that means is when the bass is playing that C, we're also hearing a little bit of the C that's in the guitar's range. And I think that is why so many people for so long have thought that that guitar chord has a C in it. Have fun with this. This song, this riff is such a fantastic testament to the power of simplicity and to not overwriting. I have no idea how Jimmy wrote this riff, but I feel like it's a product of jamming. It is so unpretentious, it is so aggressive, and to me it is something that is so wrapped up with the drums. Even if Jimmy did sit down and compose this on his own, there's no possible way he couldn't have been thinking about John Bonham for this. So I would encourage you, I always like to end with a writing assignment, and so my challenge to you, if you choose to accept it, is try to write a riff that is as simple as possible, but that you think has enough character on its own to sustain for the length of at least a short song. It's a lot harder than it seems because very simple riffs either tend to sound like a ripoff of something else, or they tend to get boring, or the tendency is to want to overwrite them. So in doing that, what I would encourage is think about a drummer. Think about John Bonham if you want. Think about your drummer, or better yet, get together with a great drummer and you might find out just how little is required of you as a guitar player to write a riff that will move mountains. Thank you so much for checking this out. I hope it was helpful. The next video of this series will be me talking about how I approach an improvised solo within this song. Hope to see you there.